Well, good morning, everybody. We are back in class. This is I Represent the 2% with your host, Amos P. Wellington. It is February 12th. We are recording with Ms. Constance Bass. And this is a name and a person that you need to know. I am fortunate to have known her all my little life because we happen to be family. And but she is a serial entrepreneur, a lover of life, music, great food, family, faith, of course. And looking forward to being with you this morning. Welcome, cousin Connie. Uh,
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
yeah, well, I'm so glad to have the opportunity to sit down with you for on camera and just ask you a few things about where you've been, what you've done, share with our friends, family, and anyone that will come across this interview at some point, um, some of the many highlights and learning experiences and challenges and moments.
Yes,
And so, and that's what life is all about.
exactly.
It's all of it, right? Not
Yes, yes.
not just the moments of, hey guys, you know, you know, I sold 18 shares of Bitcoin and I made $1 million. Great. What happened the day before that? You left that out. you know, who wants to read that book? Oh, I won and I won and I won. And what about the ankle sprain? And what about the
Okay.
so
Oh, yes.
so kind lady, if you will, just give us a little background introduction and tell us who you are and who made you and who raised you and who you share a bed with and all those good things a long time ago. Long time ago now. I'm not talking about as a grown adult, as one of the best.
So I am the eldest daughter of Reverend and Mrs. James B. Bass. Our mother's name was Hazel Catherine Parker Bass. We were all born and raised at 1522 East 55th Street in Los Angeles, California, with the main avenue being Compton Avenue on the west of our home. We were blessed to be raised with a village of people who were worked with integrity, shared with each other, helped the people that came from the South as they came from the South. But most of all, the village that walked to Christ Temple Church of Christ Holiness at 54th and Hooper.
Amen.
And as children, we walked at least 5 to 6 of those days a week. So it started with prayer meeting on Sunday mornings very early, Sunday school at 9, 11 o'clock morning service, then 3 o'clock service if there was a special service, and 6 o'clock we had Holiness Young People's Union, then 7 o'clock the night service. So that meant that the Bass sisters went to church all day long.
All day.
Fortunately, all day. But we came home for the family meal, which was a big deal all the time. And from age 12, that was my project. I prepared the family meal for at least 8 to 20 people every Sunday afternoon. And there was always fried chicken, always. Now, my father, whose parents had a farm in Chowchilla, California, were the first Black dairy farm owners. And my dad went to Chowchilla at least twice a month and came back with food. So we had a locker on forgot the name of the street. And my dad would package the meat and put the food in the locker, and we would share with our neighbors, our family. I call it the village.
Yes.
So the village was very safe. It was okay for us to walk down the street. Nobody was afraid that somebody was going to snatch us or kidnap us or hurt us.
Yes.
And to be remembering those moments is just extremely exciting because now we're afraid to let our children walk the streets. So at 16, I had a part-time job at the Los Angeles Library downtown LA. And I would get off at 10 o'clock at night. I would take the bus from downtown to Central and 55th Street, get off, and walk from Central Avenue to my home, which is about 5 blocks. The neighbors would raise up their windows and wave at me as I went. But I was by myself at 16.
Yes.
We would not even let our kids walk anywhere. And even if we lived where we lived.
Yes.
So to realize that safety, that confidence of being raised in a safe environment is incredible. And something that I hold on to and wish for my great-grandchildren.
Yes.
So my father was a hard worker. My mother was an at-home mother, and she loved music. In our home was God first and then music. She woke us up at 5 in the morning to practice whatever instrument we were and vocal instruments. My sisters Ruth and Lois have perfect pitch. So how that works, my mother would have us turn away from the piano. She would hit a note, and we had to tell her what that note is. And to date, Ruth and Lois have perfect pitch. They were born with the gift, but that was developed by our mother. She taught all of us how to read music before we were 6 years old. So I started, actually, my mother taught me how to sing Malak's Lord's Prayer when I was 5 years old. And I sang before the church. So that was my first performing lessons, if you want to call it, before people, because I wasn't, there was no fear. I just did it.
Yeah.
And so my mom actually developed or helped me develop that vocal instrument within me and I was able to sing for most of my adult life. When I went into the food business, I allowed the stress of the food business to take my voice, so I don't sing anymore. However, my love for music has given me the energy and the courage to develop the business plan, which I've just completed, to teach students how to read music, sing, and play instruments, which is a mission of the Hazel Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts. So I'd like to say that the other part was we were raised with our relatives. Our Auntie Robert Esther lived across the street with her children, Bobby and Martha and Kenny. Cousin Amanda lived across the street with her 3 daughters, Jackie, Pat, and Celestine, yes, who later married Cousin AB, and now there's Albert and Robert.
Wait, hold on. Hold on 1 second, because my heart skipped a beat for a second, because you mentioned Cousin Amanda and my man Chief, and man, okay, because my whole brain froze just for a second, because I was in the backyard and Chief's coming out with his mug, and I just for a second. So run back 5 seconds of the layout of the block, just real quick, and then okay, I'm ready now. Go ahead.
So Cousin Amanda was our neighbor. She owned the property across the street, and it was a duplex and a home in the back. So we were raised, as I said, with that richness of family and relatives and neighbors who took care of each other. Now, I'll tell you another story. The Carr family was 2 houses down the street from Cousin Amanda. Your Auntie V Beatrice,
Yes.
was the best cook in the whole wide world. Oh my God. When the Sunday meals were done, it was a feast.
Mm.
So it was not only just fried chicken, it was beef roast, ham, whatever, just, and then all the wonderful sides, and everything was delicious.
Mm.
So, because the cars, now the Wellingtons were a block over. So that meant your grandfather,
Mm.
a cousin Amos,
Yes.
and your grandmother, Cassie,
Yes.
lived a block over. Now, the Cars and the Wellingtons moved to the west side before we did.
Okay.
We didn't move to the west side, which was 55th and Budlong,
Mhm.
until I was 17 when that occurred.
Okay.
And so most of us were raised in that same neighborhood, cousins, family, which was incredible. And then I had an Auntie Truth, who's the eldest sister of my mother. She lived on Morgan Avenue, which was 2 blocks and around the corner. And she was married to Uncle Tom, who was a Spanish World War veteran.
Mm.
So again, the talents of the aunts and the cousins were all shared. So Auntie Truth was a seamstress. So she sewed for everybody. She made everyone's clothes and taught us how to sew.
Yeah.
She also taught us how to embroidery. The one thing we didn't learn was a skill called tatting. And that's a lost art, but we just didn't learn that. So on our pillowcases was this beautiful lace that Auntie Truth had created by tatting.
Okay.
And I'm going to apologize. I hope I'm saying that correctly, but I used to say to her, Auntie, teach us how to do that. And we didn't, but we did learn how to sew. We did learn how to embroidery.
Yeah.
And so those kinds of skills we grew up with. So going back to skills, sewing, cooking, canning, all those disciplines were done in all of our homes.
Yeah.
And we had basements where we would put that food in the basement, and when we needed it, we bring it out. The other thing that was just so poignant in our upbringing, my father always had a vegetable garden in the backyard. So when I took over the job of cooking the Sunday meal, I learned how to go out to the yard, pull the vegetables, wash them, and get them ready for the Sunday meal. So when I went into the catering business, I already had those skills, so that knowledge
Yeah.
of you prep the day before your event.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to cook for hundreds of people, but I had enough to get me started. So I take pride in having that opportunity because I believe that the hard work ethic that was taught to us is part of or the foundation of who we are and why we were able to be successful in the disciplines that we approach throughout our lives. So cousin Cassie was very she had a lot of light in her and when she came into the room, her smiles, her greetings were always welcomed. So your father, Jonathan, let's see, Jonathan Robert. No. I'm thinking of the brothers. Uh,
Michael, Jonathan, Amy.
Jonathan, Michael, yes. And your cousin Ethel. No, Ethel she's behind me a few years,
Mhm.
but you know how she soared when she went into the work world. But it was those disciplines, that foundation that we got as children that gave us that energy and that courage to do that.
Yes. Yes. Well, thank you for that. Yeah, so when you talk about the expansion to the west side or the migration to the west side, I won't say the expansion, but
Yes.
that was partially the city's opening up now because, blacks could move west of Central, and
right.
I mean, I remember, reading about Nat King Cole, his father having, I mean, not father, excuse me, his attorney having to purchase, his home in Echo Park.
Hancock Park.
Hancock Park, yes, because it was
Yes.
over there. And no,
We weren't allowed.
yes.
So at first, the red line, if you want to call it whatever, was Central Avenue,
Yes,
and that was where all the businesses were.
yes,
If you read about Central Avenue, and then it became Main Street,
okay,
and then after that it became La Cienega. So I remember those days.
yes.
Yes, gradually. So the cars moved on Van Ness. Cousin Amanda moved on Van Ness. Your parents moved to Orange, I believe. I'm not sure. Oh, you know what? I think they moved to, I'm not sure. Did they go to Watts before that, Bellevue, with Cousin Annie and Cousin Ethel?
I know
I don't remember that part. I better.
they're on. I think they were on Bellhaven
Yes.
before then Orange Drive.
Then Orange Drive. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So I remember when that development became a real thing.
Mhm.
And several members of the church bought houses in that particular development. And Cousin Annie and was it what's her name? Cousin Ethel? I think it was. Anyway, they bought a house together. And Cousin
Penny and Dolly.
Elaine,
Penny and
pardon?
Penny and Dolly.
No, Dolly, they bought the house on Orange together. But the
Oh,
Bellhaven was
you're
another.
saying, okay, I'm sorry. Okay, no.
Yes. So Cousin Elaine, the Irvins, yes, several people bought homes in that Bellhaven development.
Okay.
Yes. And so it was kind of interesting how certain developments were almost earmarked for the blacks to move into. I mean, when you think about it,
Mhm.
go back. I haven't done the history, but I'm just drawing from my memory.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now high school, where did you attend?
I went to LA High, and I'll tell you what happened. Once I graduated from Carver Junior High School, and by this time I'm an accomplished violinist.
Okay.
I'm in all city orchestra,
Okay.
often the only black, and often first chair.
Okay.
There are 300 students in all city orchestra, and we're rehearsing in the Shrine Auditorium.
Wow.
So I was there from the 3rd grade through the 12th grade. So my mother decided that she did not want me to go to the school that I was supposed to go to, which was Jefferson High School.
Mhm.
So she went to the Board of Education and said, I will homeschool her. I will not allow her to go to Jefferson. I need a permit to go to LA High, and they gave my mother the permit. So for 3 years, I took the Watts local on Long Beach Boulevard, the V car to the bus, the Olympic bus. It was 1 hour and 1 hour back. So that was my busing experience. So at that time, this was 1953, there were only approximately 30 blacks on the whole campus.
At LA High?
I don't know what the population of the campus was, but it was mostly Jewish, and most of them were associated some kind of way with the movie industry, the entertainment industry. So the blacks that I remember were Johnny Cochran, who was the attorney.
Okay.
He was ahead of me, and his sisters were there. And then I'm trying to think of there's a Japanese actor, he's still around too. I'll think of his name later.
Okay.
But he was in my graduating class.
All right.
He was Star Trek.
Oh,
Dr.
another guy.
I'll think of his name. Anyway, he was in my class. Justin Hoffman, I believe, graduated from LA High.
Okay.
So there were a few people that we consider celebrities, or we are well known, were on that campus. So I say that was my college
Okay.
because there was not enough money for me to go to college once I graduated from LA High.
Okay.
And I did not go to college. I went into the work world.
Mhm.
And I took every penny home to my parents, and that was how they bought their home on 55th and Budlong.
Okay. Okay.
And then as a payment or as a return, they gave me the old family home on 55th and Compton. So that's how I got started.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Nice. Okay. Okay. So,
And I should say that was after I got married.
all right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, uh, the j- your husband at that time, you met that young man where? Did you
At
meet
the
him
church. At the church.
where else are you gonna meet him? Either on the bus at school or walking.
Yes. So
Goodness.
my mother, in no uncertain terms, told us that first we could not move out until we were married.
Okay.
Next, we had to marry someone from the Christ Temple Church. That was just the rule. And in her mind, I was going to be this minister's wife,
Hmm.
and I was going to have 20 kids.
Oh, okay.
And I was just going to do like she did, stay home and teach the children.
Uh-huh.
And then once I got into the marriage, I decided I didn't want to have 20 kids. And I didn't even like the person I was married to. So it took me 4 years to get divorced,
Okay.
and I did. And then I was the black sheep of the family. Yeah, that was
Oh,
a no-win situation.
well, if you're gonna, if you're gonna sit there and think for yourself, you're gonna use
Yeah.
if you're gonna use all of these skills that you've developed,
Yes.
all this confidence that you've developed,
Yes.
you've worked at the library, you've walked home, you've made food for all these 20 people every week.
Okay.
You have
Okay.
sung and played in audiences, you've been in the
Yes.
shrine daily, weekly for years. And now you say, okay, well, we're going to shrink all that. We built all of this grandiose opportunity into you, but we're not
Yes.
going to let you, we don't want you to experience any of it. We want you to box back in, please. Yes.
So I think a lot of it, my mother was fearful that the world would not accept me.
Yes.
And I think that that was her defense.
Yes.
The other part, she truly felt that she was doing God's work when she was an at-home mother.
Yes. Yes.
She had no conception that she could do God's work and work a job. Well, I decided that I could do God's work and work a job and raise 3 children.
There you go. There you
So
go.
the name of my book is I Had to Figure It Out as a Single Parent. That's
All
the
right.
name of my book.
All
Okay.
right. There we
And
go.
I did.
Well, in first, before I let one more frame be recorded, my wife, we homeschool, I, finance homeschooling, and, Tiffany does the raising of, the children and all of that so when you talk about, music and all those things, so there's still folks
Yes.
that are, and so I'm not, no shade, no slight to any woman that has decided that she wants to invest in and raise her family exclusively. But we
Exactly.
do want to give audience and agency to the young women in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s that decide now, hey, I can do a little more in addition. I can
But AP, the thing that you have to understand is the world was changing.
oh, yeah.
And when our house note was only $45 when we got married, once we moved, the house note increased to $130 a month. So, and now that same house would be $2,000 a month.
Yes.
And so at some point you have to say, wait a minute, things are moving and things are changing.
Yes.
How do I adjust? So truly, if my husband had been the kind that said, okay, I'm going to work, you stay home and take care of the kids, I would have abided by those rules. But he wasn't. He was lazy.
Oh,
And so, anyway, it was, yeah, bottom line.
sure, I'm with you. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that is not a match.
No.
When you're a person that's used to waking up at 5 and
5 in the morning. There
hitting
you
keys,
go.
hitting keys at 5 in the
Yeah.
morning, and like you're that that example you're talking about. I mean, we saw a lot of it in the Clark sisters film, that came out last year, and then boom, it's like early, ridiculous. And so
Yes.
I can see you and all this. I can see all the ladies there, house coats and hair wraps and baby rollers and things. And here we go.
Oh my
Turn
gosh.
around, bam.
Yes. Yes.
That's wonderful.
So actually, that my intention, or I was raised to be an at-home mother. That was my mother's dream for her children,
Yeah.
her daughters. But it didn't work out that way. So then we had to take another route and figure it out, literally.
Mhm, mhm.
So I then decided that I did not want to raise my girls like I was raised.
Okay.
I wanted them to be independent thinkers, critical thinkers, and think for themselves and decide how they wanted their life to be, as opposed to someone telling them what they had to do. I feel that as parents, we have to give them the foundation. I believe we owe them an education.
Yeah.
And but once we do all that, then we have to release it and not give them to God totally. We still pray for them, we still keep in their lives,
Yes.
but they should decide how their lives should go, period.
Yeah. At this stage, in
And there should be that conversation
mhm,
before you get married. There should be that conversation of how can we work this so that we are together and in unity.
yes.
And all the sermons, all the whatever I went and heard, there was not that conversation,
Yes.
which to me is not good. So I advise people when they come to me for advice, get in front of a counselor, talk it out.
Mhm.
And one thing I said to my girls, when you're dating, ask the young man if he would mind if you had someone to come and clean your house. And if he says no, run, because he's looking for a slave.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Okay.
A woman should not have to have the children, take care of the children, clean up the house, do all the laundry, cooking, and then on Saturdays, clean the refrigerator and the stove and mop them. No, that should be a shared duty, or hire someone to come in and do those heavy things.
Gotcha. That makes total sense. I'm with that. Absolutely. Very interesting. Run. Yes. Yes. The run. It's funny. There's so many people right now that they're not. First of all, they're missing that wisdom, and they're missing that intergenerational talk.
Yes, yes.
I have always I've had great opportunities in my life to sit at the feet of giants and just and just listen,
Learn.
and
Yes.
so the opportunity, when I got the opportunity to speak, whether it was teaching in school or doing when I left teaching for a period and I was working full time for MetLife, and I was a field agent, and I'm out here and I'm meeting people and doing these lunchtime sits and saying, hey, you need to save more money, you need to have some life insurance, you need a long-term care plan or whatever it was. Just the confidence was, hey, what they're talking about really loudly is a bunch of BS. They're yelling about who won the game and who's a better fighter and who's got more, whose car is
Yes.
shinier.
Yes.
And I'm talking
Yes.
about is something that's gonna put you in a
Right.
position,
Right.
for so and there's so many young people. I mean, teaching high school now, 23 years. They're on the streets together, and what the pool of those individuals knows is all they know. And that's
Yeah.
a very scary thought.
Very dangerous. Which is why in my business plan or our business plan, Margaret is saying good morning to you. She's getting ready
Come in
to
here.
good morning.
Hey,
How
beautiful.
are you?
Hey, what's happening? Good looking.
Wow, look at you looking like your mom and your dad. Oh my
Hey,
God.
man. Wait, I know. When I shaved my mustache okay, so I went Will Smith in like 2000, right? Somewhere right
Okay.
around there. And people had always said, you guys had always said, all my family always said, oh, you look just like your mom, you look just like your mom. And and I'd always had, mustache. And I was like, I don't look like my mom. And when I took that thing off, there she was. And I was like,
Wow. Oh,
yeah,
it's good to see you.
It's good to see you. It's not going to be another X number of summers before we see each other. We can do this.
Yes, we can.
If nothing else, we can do this.
Yeah, Mommy, I have to run. We got to get all his information. So, do you have kids?
I have children, kids, or baby goats.
Wow.
I'm just kidding. Yes, no. But
Adults?
yeah,
Yes, 3. Wow. What are their
3,
ages?
3. Blake is 13.
Okay.
Catherine is 15, and Grace is 17.
Wow. That's awesome. Teenagers. Yeah, well, mine are adults. I'm a grandma.
Who?
Me.
My cousin Margie's a grandma?
I have 2 that are here, and my daughter's pregnant with her second.
Wait, my little cousin Margie's a grandmother?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I'm a grandma.
Okay, I'm coming. Are you guys in Pasadena still, right?
Yeah, we're in View Park now.
Wait a minute.
View Park. Yeah, you gotta tell him I gotta run.
No, yeah,
I gotta run because I gotta go watch my granddaughter.
Okay.
But we have to catch up. We have to catch up.
Absolutely.
It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you. Oh my goodness. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. You guys are in View Park. Okay, now remember we're recording. We're gonna share this stuff. No. So so funny. Okay, so we bus to LA. We travel to LA. Hour 2.
3 years.
Yes. 3 years. Right.
Yeah, 1953 to 1956.
Okay.
So let me just give you a little, the thing that I learned by being on that bus and being in the environment where I was with very wealthy kids, I kind of mapped out of what my life would be like in those 3 years. Mm-hmm. And I was also decided, I put some boundaries of what was not going to happen in my life. So one of the boundaries was when I saw someone get on the bus with their baby in a carriage, I was like, oops, when I have children, I'm gonna have a car. I will not be riding the bus with my baby in the carriage. I mean, just little things like that were etched in my mind and my determination because that was, I decided what kind of life I wanted and I worked towards that. Absolutely. So my father was very unhappy with my independence. And he used to just push that down because, he was the man, however that works. And then I was going to marry a man, however that works, whatever. And so once I didn't marry a man, that he could feel whatever, I was like, okay, let me start writing. So I started journaling. And it took me 4 years to get my divorce, but every so often I would look at the things that I wanted to achieve once I got divorced, and I could decide for myself what was going to happen with me and my 3 girls. Yes. And the number one thing was to put my girls in parochial private school. Okay. That was my number one request on my vision board. Okay. So once we were divorced, because I had tried to get James to buy into that, and he was like, no, we can't afford it. And he kept saying, I'm public school, you're public school, our kids are okay in public school. By this time, we're in Altadena. Okay. And I'm not happy with what's going on at the school. So when we got divorced, I had already done my research. And I went to Pasadena Lutheran on Los Robles, and I said, I have 3 daughters, and I would like to enroll them in this school. What is the tuition? And they gave me the tuition, and then they said to me, if you join the Lutheran church, your tuition will be a lot less. So the girls and I were baptized Lutherans, and we became members of the Lutheran church, and we were very active in church and school for many years.
Okay.
The best thing I could ever done.
Mhm.
All of my girls are independent. They know how to put a paragraph together. They can write. None of them have college educations. They're all entrepreneurs and doing well.
Mhm. Mhm.
And we attribute it to those years at Pasadena Lutheran. The church and school together.
Yeah. Yeah. Man.
So
you-
you either see my mother, every day we read the Bible. Every day what I didn't tell you was when we woke up at 5 o'clock in the morning, she would have a verse on the chalkboard. So we wake up, we look at that verse, and by the time we left home for school at 7:30, we would have memorized that verse. So we all had good memorization. But it was taught to us as children.
Yes. And
Isn't that amazing?
well, absolutely. And your ability to sponge information, was a muscle that was being developed on a daily
Yes.
basis, right? And
Yes.
if the expectation not only is that we're going to get up and immediately produce, but also that we're going to synchronize and synergize this verse along with these notes and everything, and then
Yes.
her maybe cousin Hazel's fear of maybe the outside world, and all the things that were happening in the news that she was hearing about on the radio, and during like 55, Emmett Till, the busing,
Yes.
all the different
Yes.
things, the George Wallace in Alabama, and all the and the LAPD, here at home, and so that fear and the ability to say, hey, in this environment, I'm safe.
Right.
What I want you to be is safe.
Safe.
Whereas
Yes.
what you were able to think for that next generation was, yes, safe is just the start. Yes, we're safe,
Right. Right.
but
Right.
not safe. We can be, I can have a car and I can have my baby in the car with,
Yes.
a car
Yes.
seat. We don't have to wonder if we're going to have to get, have to stand, or if an officer is going to pull us out of the seat, or, any
Right.
thing.
Right.
Yeah. But I'm really, impressed with, the opportunity that you took to, not to buck your father, and it's not disrespect in term, you used every tool that you were given.
Yes.
Every like you go, okay, so you don't want me to go to Jefferson, which is my neighborhood school. You don't want me to go with my ragamuffin friends. Okay, cool. I'm not going to do that. But you're going to send me over here just so I can look at all of this great stuff, and then you don't want me to do any of it.
Yes.
Every day.
Crazy.
Every day for an hour,
Yeah.
I go through. I look at all of Los Angeles going this way and coming this
Right.
way. And
Right.
and so, yeah, absolutely.
So one of the things that I treated myself with was a glass of carrot juice at the May Company. They had a juice bar. And so I would save, I forgot how much it would cost, but it was a lot less than it would cost now, maybe 15 cents or so.
Yeah,
And so
$8.
I would walk down to May Company before it was, I could get to the, come to the Watts local station and buy a glass of carrot juice. That was my treat for how many ever days, I decided that I wanted that carrot juice. I still, to this day, love carrot juice.
Nice.
In those days, downtown LA was downtown.
Yeah.
Oh my God. It was, so you probably don't remember this, but it was It was a downtown
Mhm.
that was very refined, very sophisticated.
Yes.
Bullock's, Robinson's, May Company. And so that was part of my exposure. Now, when I got 14 years old, I got a work permit and I worked at the dollar store on Central Avenue. My check was $5 and something for 8 hours. I took that check to my mother
Okay.
every faithfully,
Hmm.
just took it right to her.
Hmm.
Did not spend. And so, yes. Now, I want to say also that approximately a year before my mother died, I had to take her to Cousin Amanda and Cousin AB's an anniversary, and it was on a military, um, one of the military places. I don't remember which one.
Mhm, mhm.
My mother said to me, and we're the only two in the car.
Okay.
She said to me, and she hesitated. She said, Connie, I want you to forgive me. I was like, what? I almost had an accident. And she said, I kept you back.
Mm.
I want you to forgive me.
Mm.
AP, you don't know.
Mm. Mm.
That was amazing to me
Yes.
that she had the strength because see that generation, they knew everything and we knew nothing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And so for her to have the strength to do that
Yeah.
was just amazing.
That's wonderful.
So I'll give you for instance, when I was 12 years old at HYPU, Holiness Young People Union, on a Sunday evening at 6 o'clock, Bishop White was the minister at that time. I know you remember who Bishop, his name was Emery and his wife was Lily.
Okay.
Lily was actually married to your grandfather for a while
Okay.
after he died.
Oh, yes, 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 yes,
Yes.
yes.
So he asked the question, he gave us pencil and paper. He said, what do you want to be? I wrote down opera singer.
Hmm.
My mother looked over my shoulder and she saw that and she said, get a clean piece of paper and put mother. Yes.
Oh.
Okay.
Oh.
So at 13 years old, one of the sororities came to my mother and they wanted to finance lessons and grooming for me to become a singer,
Yes.
but they were from a sorority. And my mother did not believe in sororities. They were all sin, going to hell. She told them no.
Oh.
So, in her own way, in her own fear,
Yeah.
she was just keeping us in her mind. We would still be singing and playing the violin at Church of Christ on the 54th and Hooper
Yes. Yes.
forever.
Yes.
And that
Absolutely.
was it. She
Absolutely.
did not want us to experience the whole world. But then when Ruth and I was 16 and Ruth was 15, my mother arranged for Auntie Robert Esther, who was my heart,
Hmm.
to take us to Memphis, Tennessee, because that's where they were raised
Okay.
before they came to California. Nobody gave me or Ruth heads up on all of the discrimination that we would encounter.
Mm.
So we get off the train.
Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. They gonna let their Southern California, Los Angeles raised,
Yes,
beautiful, 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 fine, in all their glory of 16 and 15, go way down south,
yes,
Souf, way down south
yes.
with no prep.
No prep.
Oh no. Okay, I'm ready. I'm ready.
So
I think I'm ready.
we get off the train, and for some reason, we didn't have the exact phone number or right address of where we were going.
Daytime, nighttime.
So I saw an information office. So I said, okay, let me go in here. I'm sure they've got directories or whatever. I mean, I'm independent. I know what I'm doing, I think. And so I burst into this office and I go over to the lady and I give her information. And there's this man coming down the runway and he's screaming, get out, get out. And I'm like, why is he screaming?
Mhm.
My aunt says to him, sir, she's just asking for information. Blacks were not allowed to go into that door and ask for information. I did not know that.
Of course not.
So that was our first experience to Memphis, Tennessee. So we get to wherever we're going to our relatives.
Oh, geez.
And then the next day, our 12-year-old cousin, these are relatives on my mother's side,
Yes.
takes us and we get the bus to downtown Memphis. Well, we got to sit at the back.
Yes.
So we go to downtown Memphis and we go to a Woolsworth. We're walking down the street. We see a Woolsworth and we see a sign on the sidewalk and it says, banana splits 15 cents. I said, ooh, let's go get a banana split. My cousin, 12 years old, will not tell us that we cannot get a banana split. So we go in and we stand at the counter and we're waiting for the lady to, I want to order a banana split. She would not make eye contact. She would not even look at us. And then it hit me, Connie, you cannot have a banana split because you're Black. Oh, AP, I was so crushed. I was done. I said, okay, let's just go back to wherever home is in Memphis, Tennessee.
Yes, yes.
Back on the bus is empty. Well, I'm mad by this time.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, I'm not sitting in the back of the bus. I sat in the front. My cousin and Ruth went to the back. I'm like, but I was just mad. So the bus driver was white.
This is what year?
I was 16, so that would have been 1938 plus 16. What is that? 64
this is
maybe?
54?
54, yeah.
Wait, so this is 54.
Yes,
Okay,
and I did not know that I was gonna get almost arrested. I didn't know. So the white, he knew that we didn't look like in Memphis, Tennessee people.
Yes,
so
yes.
He allowed me to sit the front, but I was mad. And I was like, I'm not sitting in the back of that bus. Yeah. So that was our introduction to racism. So then, after the train experience, then we started to see colors, white signs, so then we understood.
Wow.
Yeah. Deep, wow. Yeah.
So Rosa Parks is 1955.
Yes.
Claudette Colvin is, who was your age at the time, is earlier in the year of 1955, and you were almost on the front page of, of the NAACP bulletin. Constance Bass of California.
In the back of the bus.
Oh my goodness! I get to see Cousin Ruth in the back, like. Oh my goodness! Wow, my goodness. I mean,
we actually ultimately went to the first. I think that was the first national convention that I went to out of the state of California for the Christ Simple Church, because I wasn't allowed to go because I was normally working, and Ruth went because she was a musician, and so she, was playing and people, however that worked.
Mm-hmm.
So that was my first experience. That was my first experience out of the state of California.
Yes. Yes.
So we stayed with relatives on my mother's side, and my mother's father was a Rolling Stone. He was an evangelist, and he was married 8 times. I never knew, we did not know him until I was 16. So there was some whispering, whenever things happened, the sisters were talking on the phone and whispering. Yeah. And so the next thing, my mother pulled us in and she said, your grandfather's going to be here to see you tomorrow. What? We have a grandfather? We didn't even know we had a grandfather.
Yes, yes.
And he was moving to California to get married to his 8th wife.
Wow. Wow.
So we were, my mother had just never mentioned him. Yeah. So again, secrets, generational curses, all those things that they just wouldn't even acknowledge. And so it makes you kind of wonder, why? And I don't know.
Yeah, and and not to spend too much time on, but it's important that we consider, those constructs and the fears, the fears that motivate the decisions that we do actually make.
Exactly.
A fear you had was, having 20 kids and, and just being stuck with somebody that weren't supposed to,
Yeah,
that they wanted you to be with, but that you didn't want to be with.
Right. And we were not allowed to know each other. My mother went with me on my dates. She also, when our date finally, once we got into the relationship, we would take the bus to the Open Door Church downtown and attend the Youth for Christ. My mother had every second timed. She knew when it was time for me to walk on that door, up that door, she would open the door. She was intense. She was so intense.
It sounds like it sounds.
And it was all to make sure that I was a virgin. And I said to her one day, I said, Mother, I would have been a virgin no matter what, because you had preached that to me so much, how important that was. I said, I would have respected that of you. You just didn't trust it. And she didn't. And I was a virgin. At 19 years old when I got married, I was a virgin. Yeah. So, when I think about those things, I think of in the time and the span and say to myself, that was their fears that they were living through and trying to pass on to us the best way they knew.
Yeah.
And they did the best they could.
Yeah.
So therefore, but when it came to having a home, square meals, hygiene correction, helpful sharing with the families and all that, that was the nucleus of our home.
Okay.
And of our bringing.
Yeah.
And so now the Bass sisters would like to share some of those privileges and guidelines, whatever you want to call them, with the music, through the music with other students. Because as I have traveled among this world and being a deputy sheriff, often I said, but for the grace of God go I. With another set of parents, my life could have been very different.
A whole lot different. And that's an important distinction too, because although it was strict and walking to church and Sunday dinners and church all day and every day, multiple days out of the week, that structure and that discipline that was built in, although it was there. So when you made the transition to after your divorce, you decide, you're gonna. I guess you just mentioned it. We're gonna talk about sheriff's departments next, or if there's something just between that.
No, that was the other. Yeah.
The discipline.
So the second thing on my list after putting my children in private school was I had to become independent. I did not have a degree, so I had to find something that I could raise my family and be independent. So in 1965, April, I began radio telephone operator at the LA County Sheriff's Department, which was an extremely interesting job because we were the nucleus of LA County's communication systems for the Sheriff's Department and for the entire county. We literally had to use every sense, meaning we had to look, write, hear, well, I should say hear first. Hear, see, look, write, and then I used to say and pray that we were getting all of the information, because we were the connection to the officer in the field and his safety for backup for whatever was happening.
Yeah.
So that job was actually supposed to be a 6 months training job. But the 1965 riots occurred in August. So April, May, June, July, August. I'm just 1 month supposed to be finished. And oh my God, was that an interesting experience, being there in the nucleus at the Hall of Justice, downtown Los Angeles, and witnessing their reaction and all the things that were going along. They were totally taken off guard because this was the Blacks had just taken what they had endured, the injustices, and had not fought back. So there was one white sergeant, he would walk through, he'd say, "This is history." And I was like, oh my God, please, go somewhere and sit down. So another sergeant one day, he looked at me and said, "Connie, training is over, sink or swim." I said, "I will swim." And so I was at that job from April 1965 until 1970. So I began researching becoming a deputy sheriff. Now, mind you, if you knew Connie Bass in those days, there was no cop. I didn't have any of those attributes. I mean, I was just, oh my God. My mother was so embarrassed. She would not speak to me for 2 years because I became a deputy sheriff. Really? The back and divorce, that was the two things that were just, oh my God. So, right. Yes. So she told the background investigator that no woman should ever carry a gun, that God did not ordain for women to be in those positions. I mean, she had just a world of reasons why I should not be a deputy sheriff. The investigator called me and said, "Connie, if I listen to your mother, you won't get this job." I said, "Please don't listen to my mother. I need this job. I need to become independent because I'm never going to marry again. I'm going to be a single parent raising 3 children. Please give me this job." So guess what? My father actually came to my graduation. Oh. Shocked the hell out of me. I was like, what? I couldn't believe that my father actually showed up. Of course, my mother didn't. Okay. And if anybody that asked, "Well, what's Connie doing?" she wouldn't tell them because I wasn't a housewife with 20 kids. I had been now, So yes, she was very upset over that. So when we're still, no, this is after I got divorced and we're living in Altadena. So let me tell you the story about how we bought our house in Altadena. Okay. Our parents were in our lives. James's grandmother was ruling his life and my mother was ruling my life. And so I said to James one day, I said, "You know what? If we're going to make this marriage work, we need to get away from our parents. So I think we should sell the house on 55th Street and move somewhere." So my auntie Hattie lived in Pasadena. She was the one who inspired us to come and look for houses. So we found a house on Harriet. It was in the middle of being constructed, brand new. We watched it being constructed, and then we bought it, of course, while it was still being constructed. And in those days, 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, $23,500 with $1,500 down. So that was in 1962. Yeah, it's 1962. Wow. So anyway, I handled all of the sale of the house. Now, mind you, I didn't know anything about real estate, but I knew how to read and write. Yeah. And so I didn't need a realtor. I handled everything. Okay. I mean, that's how LA High prepared me for this world. Okay.
There you go.
And so when we finally got moved, James's grandmother called me and she's crying on the phone. "You took my baby. You took my baby." I took a deep breath. I said, Granny Hill, you will have him back real soon, sooner than you want. Thank you, and hung up the phone. But see, I mean, can you imagine Connie Bass doing something like that? But I had to become that strong.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they would have just kept pushing us down and under their whatever supposed protection of me. No, we are grown. We should be trying to live our lives and respect that,
Yeah.
please.
Yeah.
So I know that sounds crazy, but
No, it doesn't.
yeah.
No, it doesn't. Oh, no, it doesn't.
So I became a deputy sheriff. I went through the academy. I'm 30 years old. And by this time, I have several boundaries. I know Connie now, and I'm not going to get married again, and I'm certainly not going to date a police officer or nobody on the job. I mean, I had that real down. Okay, so Sybil Brand was the women's jail. Is in East LA. They assigned me to the mentally ill ward, which was 12 people, one person to a cell, 24 in the whole cell block.
Okay.
So I would go in the mornings and I would sing to them. And one of my favorite songs to sing to them was This Little Light of Mine, I'm Gonna Let It Shine. And soon I would have all 24 of them trying to sing This Little Light of Me and mine. And I would teach them other songs.
Yeah.
And I would, at that time, my name was Deputy Robbins because I had married again for 8 months, and that's another whole story.
Okay.
And I would come into the cell block and I'd say, "Good morning, Deputy Robinson is here, and we're going to have a great day." And then I would just start singing.
Okay.
Well, I didn't know I was auditioning for one of the best jobs in the whole sheriff's department, inadvertently.
Okay.
And so about a year later, one of the lieutenants came to me and she said, "Connie, you are going to create the rehab programs for the custody division of the LA County Sheriff." I'm like, "What? Rehab? I'm not a psychiatrist. I'm not a psychologist. I don't even have a degree. What qualifies me?" She says, "Your music ability." I said, "Oh, yes." My mother woke us up at 5 a.m. in the morning.
Yeah.
Yes, I'm ready. So they gave me a team, a white sergeant with no brains, who was on discipline because he was being a philanderer and he had 4 children by his wife, whatever. The next was a deputy who had, quote, accidentally killed his neighbor at 4 o'clock in the morning when he went to his van and the neighbor was in the van robbing his van.
Oh my God.
Then they gave me a wonderful, the only Black on the team. He was a correction officer. His name was Dejan, and he liked jazz.
Okay.
So that allowed me to, and I know how to write. So I know how to write the plan. I know how to communicate with the people. The brainchild of the program was a Black lieutenant. Can't think of his name right now. And so if I had any challenges, I could just call him direct and ask him. And so what we did, unfortunately, a lot of the men in those days that were housed in jail were musicians. And many of them had been trained by musicians of the community that we know.
Yes.
Mrs. Hightower, Mrs. Benjamin, McNeil, people that I grew up with, okay? So they were excellent musicians, but they were on drugs.
Yes.
So we housed the musicians that qualified for the program at Biscayne Center. We always had at least 16 people, always. So then I worked and recruited the girls or the ladies, and they were called the Sybil Singers. And so we again audition. At Sybil Brand, we had an auditorium. So that's where we would have performances by people who gave us the celebrities. So Sheriff Pitchers at that time also wanted that part of my job would be to recruit celebrities to come and give benefits to the the inmates.
Okay.
So Ray Charles's manager, Joe Adams,
Mhm.
wanted to be a reserve. The reserves program allowed you to do a service, but then you could carry a gun
Yes.
once you went through the training. So he wanted to carry the gun. And so that was, he went through the training, but his contribution was to introduce me to celebrities.
Okay.
So Ray Charles gave us several concerts.
Oh, wow.
BB King, several.
What?
Frank Sinatra gave us one.
Really?
Helen Reddy, Al Green.
Mm.
I have a Jet, in Jet magazine, I was written up, putting a pin on Al Green.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember some of the others. Anyway,
Wow.
several celebrities, and that was my job. So that was my first event planning job.
Absolutely.
And so I said I was on the job learning how to event plan.
Yes.
We ran that program for 5 years, from 1971 to 1976. Then they said the money dried up. And so I went back, I made senior, and I went back to the jail. So, but before that, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
Mayor Bradley appointed me to commission drugs and alcohol, which was another eye-opening, very interesting experience.
Mm-hmm.
So I got to hear the lectures, and I also got to know the rehab centers in the city. And the one program that I thought was the best was Victory Outreach, because it was Christ-based.
Okay.
So I, with all that experience, that's my inspiration for wanting to offer music therapy to release prisoners, their families, and veterans of PTSD and their families.
Absolutely.
So that will be the next business plan that I will work on and raise money for later in 2021, after we establish, probably more like 2022, after we establish a music teaching program. So I have a lot to give,
Absolutely.
a
Absolutely.
lot to give, and I'm grateful.
That's, man, that's wonderful.
Yes.
So,
So being a deputy sheriff was very interesting in that I had to carry a gun.
yeah.
And so my kids got used to the gun being in my purse, and it was loaded
Mm-hmm.
because they would go in my purse to get money, but
Mm.
they just, it was just part of our lives.
That's right.
And the fear wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have to qualify and all that.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess about 1983, 84, I had to go to training. I'm not sure where it was. And they were training with the shotgun.
Okay.
And I was like, I don't want to do this. I got to figure this out. I got to get out of here. So, and you know, it's probably even earlier than that, because in 1980, I said, I'm going to start a business. And I didn't know what I was going to do, but I just started cooking for people.
Okay.
And not only just cooking, but making presentations. And that's how Roger Mosley was the helicopter driver for Magnum PI,
Oh, yeah.
and his wife,
Yeah.
their daughter literally lived at my house,
Oh,
and she
wow.
would
Okay.
take food. She would take food home to them.
Okay.
And so one day, Tony, the mother, called me and said, "Hi, we've been eating your good food. We want you to cater our New Year's Eve party for 175 people." And so that would have been 1979, 1980.
Okay.
So at that time, I was with my friend Bill. We started Catering by Connie, and we launched our catering business with that event. And so then we worked that for 5 years up until 1985. I was able to leave. And then that's how, and then before that, I had started Cookies by Connie.
Yeah.
And so, yes, I mean, I feel grateful for the way that my life has evolved.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm grateful because now I'm studying religious science, which I just attended a session last week. And one of the tools was do your dream with what you have right now, and you have faith that the rest will come as you progress.
Yeah.
And so when people come to me, I say, okay, you have a dream. First of all, write it down, make a vision board, understand your dream, do all the research you can, and then you will, if you have faith to move on what you can, then the next will happen. So how we got to the cookie store was very interesting because we, okay, when I left the sheriff's department in 1985, I ran to Trade Tech Culinary School
Okay.
and took that summer class.
All right.
Was Professor Phillips. And what I didn't know was the culinary school were the cooks for the cafeteria of Trade Tech. And they were doing box recipes. No, no, no. I don't do box recipes.
Yeah.
Everything is scratch.
Yeah.
No, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
And I was very upset because I thought I was going to learn some wonderful culinary secrets. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, this is not what I want.
Okay.
So I said to the teacher, I said, okay, I have developed 12 recipes of cookies. Every minute counts for me. May I bake the cookies and bring them to the class every day with critique, and you help me come to the final formula. He allowed that.
Okay.
So every day I would bake the cookies, take them into the class.
Okay.
We'd eat, and then the class would tell me, and then that's how we came to the formula that we produce today.
Well, I got a little Trade Tech reference right here on the side of this hip, because Cookies by Connie, that red bag, the red striped bag with the, I think there was a black and white label on it.
Logo, yes.
Listen, because before, like my mom used to always make these Christmas cookies, and it was like like a hard cookie with like fudge over the top and then walnuts, right? And those,
Okay,
I look forward to those annually, right?
okay,
Before that, in the 70s, when, with Famous Amos cookies, right? When Wally had
yes,
his store,
yes,
we'd go up there on Sunset,
yes,
and they would come out hot and they were crisp. And I was like, oh,
right,
small, so you could just drop 50 of them.
right,
Ah! And then when you made yours, I'm like 80, what was that 80, 86, 87 when the store opened?
87,
87.
yes.
Okay, so I'm 13 and can't wait. Like, when are we going again? If we're not going, when are you bringing some more? To my dad, like, hey, make a run. Let's get this done. And that, but really quickly, I wanted to go back really quickly because you said Roger Bosley, and of course I knew him from Magnum PI.
Right, right.
But the first time that I actually met him was at a track meet, because he coached in Muir for 100 years, and that was
really.
Yes, he coached the hurdlers at Muir. He had state champions and national.
So wait a minute, Mural, Pasadena Mural?
Yes, yes. Roger Mosley
Okay.
coached at Pasadena Muir High School for years.
Really?
He's a monster hurdle coach. Yeah.
Okay, okay. I didn't know that.
Yeah. See that? So, and I didn't know
Yeah.
that you guys had that, that his daughter
Yes,
was at your house all the
yes.
time.
I credit he and Tony for helping me start my business. Yes.
That's amazing. That's so wonderful.
Yes.
And that was, and you're, I was telling one of my daughters yesterday, I said, I'm getting ready, I'm going to interview my cousin Connie tomorrow. And she said, oh, okay. And then I said, you haven't met her, and that's my fault. I was like, but I got to tell you that I got my first work money outside of cutting grass on our block on Hauser, working an event. There was a black tie event that we did, and you were doing a lot of them, I'm sure, but there was one we did, and I was, cummerbund and tuxedo shirt, bow tie, and pouring champagne, and all that good stuff. And then of course, sneak a little sip over in the corner in the kitchen. And then like, oh, this is bad. I don't like this. So why everybody make such a big deal about this? So fortunately I responded that way and not, not like, oh yeah, I'm just, wasting.
Right.
That, and then we did a pilot show for a beauty shop. It was like a beauty shop
Yes,
thing,
yes.
and Janet Dubois was there. And you were setting up the warmer plates and laying out everything, and I'm setting out the plates or silverware, whatever it was I was doing, napkins, whatever. And Janet Dubois was sitting in a chair. She was going over, I don't know if she had a newspaper or if she was going over lines or what. And this is before they had started filming.
Right.
I was just staring at her, and she said, "Are you looking at me?" I said, "Yes, I'm sorry if I'm staring." I said, but you Winona. And then she said, "It's okay, baby." And she gave me a hug, and I was like,
oh yes,
oh my
yes.
goodness, man. That was,
So, the catering business was really interesting because we got a lot of exposure to celebrities.
yes.
And one day we were doing an event for Clarence Avant,
Mm,
and
Godfather.
Eddie Murphy
Mm.
would not leave the kitchen. He got a stool and set the stool by the door in the kitchen. So my niece Camille was working, and she was washing dishes that way,
Okay.
that particular party.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "Why won't he leave?" He's just sit. I said, "This because this is the most comfortable part in the house. He's comfortable.
Yeah.
Just do your work,
Yeah.
and don't worry about him. Smile when you need to, whatever. But he is a very comfortable sitting in the kitchen, and that's okay."
Yeah. Yes. Oh, that's so funny, man. Eddie,
Yes.
it's like, okay, so my son is 13 now. And wow, he's 13. I was 13 when you started Cookies by Connie. So um, we watched Coming to America 2 weeks ago for the first time.
Really?
Yes. And so, I'm bringing him up. I didn't want to come up, super fast or anything like.
Right.
I mean, back in the day, in the 80s, we had HBO. I could watch anything, whenever,
Right.
and so, which showed me a lot of things and took me down some roads. I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be watching this, but but let me watch some more of it.
Okay.
But
Okay.
Eddie, I mean, in the 80s, I mean, he's bigger than life.
He's so talented. He's such
Oh,
a talented man.
Yes.
Oh my God.
And a musician. And
Yes.
which everybody thought was, they tried to do the same thing with him that that your mother wanted to do with you. It's like, hey,
Yes.
you do this.
Right.
You get in front of the camera, make people laugh. Don't be over here trying to sing or play guitar or do some other stuff. It's like, hey, man, I'm a whole person,
Yes.
So you had Cookies by Connie and Catering by Connie. That's going. How long was the store open?
2.5 years.
Okay.
And the interesting part about Cookies by Connie was I really didn't think when they called me and asked me to do it, I was like, yes, because I always wanted to do something of quality in the neighborhood.
Yes.
And I had no fear going to Watts. In fact, I was grateful to go to Watts because I wanted to help the kids, whatever that was, affect. And again, see, like I had jobs at 14. I wanted to have a store or somewhere in the neighborhood where the kids could come and have a job.
Yes.
Walk to their job.
Yes.
Because to me, the work ethic that we learned as kids was so invaluable. I mean, if I worked 18 hours a day, I didn't even, it was okay, because it was my business and all that.
Yes.
So when I have to tell you this story, when we decided to do it, one of my investors, her name was Carolyn, was working for an attorney. That attorney put together a plan for us and the contract so we could receive investment money. We raised $80,000 in 2 weeks. Can you imagine?
Wonderful.
Yes. 1987.
Fantastic.
So the lowest amount of investment was $1,000 and the highest was $10,000.
Okay.
So all that was wonderful and good. But when the store closed, there I was faced having had those investments. I felt like I had to repay them some kind of way. And that was the hard part.
Okay.
So when I say that was the hard part, I've done weddings, I've done repasts, I've done, I bartered a lot of the investors to do things for them to help hopefully erase that debt. I still have a list of people that I would like to pay back before I die.
Okay.
I actually put it together 2 years ago. And it's not on my vision board, but it's where I can see it.
Yes.
So what I plan to do in order to do that is to become an executive coach. And I'm working on that simultaneously with the music stuff, which is why I don't sleep, as you can see.
I see you got a bed over there. You gotta use it every once in a while.
Yes. So anyway, when I make the money from that, then I will be able to pay them back with interest.
Yeah.
But I just want to give you the quick story of how everything came together to do Cookies by Connie.
Absolutely.
My Uncle George, who I adore, who died at 96 years old, who you probably remember by just knowing George Caldwell.
Yes.
He was my Aunt Hattie's husband. I called him for advice about how to hire a contractor. He renewed his contracting license and did our job and saved us $40,000.
Wow. Fabulous.
So again,
wonderful.
It goes back to that value of when you have a dream, the biggest tool that I believe is that you do what you can with what tools you are gifted with for that moment.
Yes.
And then those other things will come by faith.
Yes.
And I believe that.
Yeah.
But sometimes you have to just like see it and understand it.
Yes.
So Uncle George was a successful contractor, and he had 4 laundromats, but he owned the land of all of those laundromats. So he quietly said to me as he was building the store, he wasn't scolding me, and he said, Connie, the person in this equation that will make the money is the developer. And that was my first introduction to triple net lease. Triple net lease means that you pay the rent that you negotiate, which at that time was $2,500 for 900 square feet. The next rung is you develop or create or enhance the workplace, meaning that you got to bring in your own equipment. So the stoves, counters, all that. That's the second rung. Then the third rung is once you are in the store and making business, the developer wants 10% of your net, which makes it impossible for you to make money.
Sure.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
Didn't know it. Okay. So when people call me today and they say, Connie, I want your advice, the first thing I say is, do you own the land? The next thing I say is, and I give them the lesson of the triple net lease. Yeah. So when you see these stores going in and out of the malls, that's the challenge.
Yes.
That's the challenge, that triple net lease. Yes. So another story that's really relevant to this is the developer, Mr. Hagan, out of Newport Beach, oh God, he was developing not only that mall, but he was developing the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall.
Okay.
So this is where the whole political thing came in.
Mhm.
They wanted Cookies by Connie to go into the Crenshaw Mall,
Yeah.
but they were not making it any kind of way in possible.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, the
Practically you
city
as a
was in on
business.
this too, and I say it was ignorance, and I say it's ignorance, okay?
Mhm.
So for the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall, we know has just been nothing but a disaster, right?
Hmm.
On Crenshaw and King Boulevard.
Yep.
I think it's been sold maybe 3 or 4 times, I'm not sure.
Right.
The rent would be $5,000 a month for 600 square feet. You have to bring in the equipment, and then you got to pay the developer 10% of the net.
Mhm.
So Connie, having understood this, did her research.
Mhm.
I actually not only researched the Baldwin Hills Crenshaw Mall, I went out to the other malls.
Mhm.
It was the highest mall in the country.
In the country?
Yes, in the
Wow.
country.
5,000 for 600 square feet. Wow.
Okay.
Wow.
So um,
Mhm.
the political structure was, well, just go, just go. So then the city set up a program where they were going to lend $140,000 to whoever went into the mall. But Hagen had his name on most of that money because he had to bring in the gas lines and all that other stuff.
Hmm.
So when you got through with everything, you only had $20,000 to work with. Does that make any sense?
20 out of
No.
140?
Yeah.
No way. No.
So I went to the meetings, and then one day I got up and I said to them, I'm dying in Watts, but I'm not going to commit suicide in Crenshaw.
That's right.
Thanks, but no thanks. And I left.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what I knew was by this time that often the politicians were not savvy with business, especially if they were Black.
Yeah.
They just weren't savvy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you remember the Marie calendars that went there?
At the Crenshaw Mall?
Yes.
No,
Okay,
I know
so
there's
that's
been a
another story. I won't tell
wow.
that story, but someday I'll tell you that story, and it'll just give you open up your eyes really. Okay,
Oh
so
yes, wait. In the top, on the other side where the
oh,
top
you know
rail,
where it
yeah,
was? It's
backside.
where she has her Debbie Allen has her dance studio, her dance studio.
Yes. Yes.
That rent was $25,000 a month back then. Yeah, yeah, crazy, huh? Okay, so anyway,
Mhm.
okay, so I knew that we had to leave Watts because we were not making money. And so one day I said, okay, before I leave, I'm just going to go out to the community and I'm going to knock on doors and I'm going to ask them, why aren't they coming to this mall?
Hmm.
Because the way the shopping centers are supposed to work, they have an anchor store
Mhm.
and they put the shops in. And so the anchor stores are the shops think that they're going to benefit by people who are going to walk out of the anchor stores and come and buy a cookie or so. Okay,
Sure.
that was not working.
Yes.
That wasn't working.
Yes.
The other thing that was alerted me was the Chinese restaurant was offering a hot lunch for $3.40. What? How could that be? Now, of course, they chop up the meat, whatever.
Mhm.
So one day I was lamenting. I said, there's no way that I can offer hot lunch for $3.40.
Yeah.
The best I can do for a hot lunch is somewhere between $7.50 and $8. And see, by this time I'm writing and I'm figuring and 1 and 1 make 2. It does not make 5. 1 and 1 make 2.
Yes.
The numbers don't lie, okay?
That's right. That's right.
So my Japanese neighbor heard me lamenting one day,
Mhm.
and he said to me, Connie, if you go to the back of that Chinese restaurant, you will see people who are indentured slaves. I said, what? This is 1990 and 1990. This is, yeah, 1988, 19. I said, what does that mean? He said the owners sponsor them into the country. They're sleeping a mat on the floor. They may get $5 an hour, but they're working for citizenship. He said, if you do that, you would go to jail. That was hard.
Mm.
Can you imagine?
No. No.
That was my
I can't
first.
imagine, I can't imagine being you and seeing it, told about it. And I certainly can't imagine being, yeah, wow, wow,
Yeah.
wow, wow, wow. Mm.
So
Mm.
another awakening situation that occurred in 1988, the lieutenant governor just came to the mall and just came to visit unannounced. He didn't tell me he was coming, anything. He just walked in and he said, I'm the lieutenant governor. I think his name was McCarthy, I think. Anyway, I've documented that. It's going to be in my book.
Mhm.
And so he allowed me to serve him lunch, entertain him, give him my story, and invite the other people in, and da 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 da.
Okay.
Right before he left, he looked at me and bold-faced said to me, "You will never make it." I looked at him and I said, "What? Why are you saying that?" He said, "There are no Black banks to support you." And then I named Family Savings and Loan, Founders Savings and Loans,
Mhm.
Broadway Federal. He said they are backed by the mainstream banks, and the mainstream banks will never let them give you a line of credit. He was right.
Mm. Mm.
He said the trend is, and I quote, that people come from other countries and they are backed by their country banks and money.
Mm.
Blacks do not have country banks and money.
Yeah.
Whew.
Yeah.
AP, you know how that made me feel?
I can imagine it being a hopeless, desperate moment of like a just absolutely kicked in the gut.
Yeah,
Because how do you plan for a
yeah.
future knowing that this guy who's up in
Lieutenant
the,
Governor.
that's what I'm saying. He's right there. He's at the top of the state. And he's saying,
And
yeah, it's a
so,
wrap.
and the thing that I thought was, how bold of you to come in here and tell me this after we've invested all this money, worked ourselves silly,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
But let me tell you another good story. All was not bad. All was not bad.
Oh, of
Some
course
things
not. No.
So 1987, we opened the store, and then in 1988, we're struggling. And one day, a lady comes in, and she says, the mainstream media had a ball." The mainstream media, a whole story in the Automobile Club magazine on Cookies by Connie,
Okay.
full page, LA Times, Metro. That's another whole story.
Mm-hmm.
They were just having a ball on this crazy woman who went and spent all this money taking a gourmet cookie store to Watts. She must be crazy, okay? I mean, that's not what they said, but you know
Yeah.
what I mean.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
it. So she walked in and she said she was the daughter of one of the productions, I think it was Warner Brothers. She had watched the stories and she was going to give us an order. And that would introduce us to the gift business. So she gave us a order that was $3,500.
Mm.
And she said, you will deliver the baskets on December the 1st, and then you will watch because that will mushroom you. And then on December the 24th, you'll see you have made that money from those first deliveries.
Mm-hmm.
So all of those deliveries went to Beverly Hills, Bel Air, West Side, all of them.
Right.
December 24th, 1988, 12 noon, the phone stopped. But we had grossed $25,000. So
Wow.
that taught us
Wow.
how to do the gift business.
Okay.
Okay. And
Wow.
so we actually kept that gift business going until we ended, Cookies by Connie before we got to the airport. Yeah. Isn't that one that
Mm.
interesting? So that
Oh,
was a good story.
that's
So from
wonderful.
then on, we knew we had to do Valentine's Day and Mother's Day.
Yeah.
None of them were as big as Christmas,
Yeah. Yeah.
but I thanked that woman for giving us that. And that was pretty cool.
Yeah. I mean, you can only, as you said, just get going, get
Yeah,
moving, and the other parts will come along. Uh,
right,
at the first step of faith is the hardest and hard, but
right.
as you continue to walk, those other pieces will come along, and she was one of those pieces. That's amazing.
Yes.
Wow.
So I was going to tell you that about how I went out to the community and knocked on doors.
Yes.
And believe it or not, I didn't let my family know what I was doing because they were all afraid. Because the gangs were very active in those days.
Yes.
But Amos, I was not afraid of the gang members.
Mm.
I would go downtown and buy a bunch of daisies and walk the streets and give them daisies and say, I love you.
Mm-hmm.
And see, that's what I feel we have lacked as Black people.
Yeah.
We have allowed the main culture to divide us. But
Absolutely.
these are our children,
Yeah.
and we are responsible for them.
Yeah.
They have to know we love them, and we have to talk to them and communicate with them. So I knocked on doors, and each one of them said, we're not coming to that shopping center because the developer did the what is it when you go to the city and you say that you want this land by there's a word for it. Oh my God. Okay.
Gentrification.
No, it's not juju.
Okay.
It's another word. They
Um,
got the land by taking it away from the people
oh, they
who
did.
were living there.
They did eminent domain.
Yes, eminent domain.
Mm.
And they broke up families who had been there for years.
Oh, because when they were putting it, when they built
When
the
they took
105,
that, yes,
and they took all that. Yes.
yes. And so the developer got the land for $1 a year for 30 years.
And
Can you
got you signed
imagine?
up in a triple net lease.
Yes,
One
yes,
dollar a year for 30 years.
yes.
That's
So
like,
see, once you can understand the whole scope of things, then you understand. And then I'm hearing my Uncle George say, we own the land of our businesses.
yes.
So had I had that wisdom before, I would have taken that 80,000 and bought a store somewhere
Yes.
and had my own land and then built. But that was in retrospect, okay?
But that's
Yeah,
all.
growing up and
That,
understanding, yes. So I plan to share that kind of wisdom with people coming before me if they'll listen,
that's right.
if
That's
they'll
right.
listen.
That's right.
Okay, so the other thing was Mayor Bradley told his executive assistant, once we closed the store, Mayor Bradley told his assistant to make me one of the caterers, make us one of the caterers. We moved to Robertson Boulevard and shared a kitchen with another caterer and re-upped our catering, full-time, all that.
Okay. Okay.
And we became Mayor Bradley's caterers at his mansion.
Mm.
And that really helped us. And then while we were in that process, Johnny Cochran called me one day and said, I want you to be in Atlanta on Friday. And that was a Tuesday. I want you to be in Atlanta on Friday for this meeting.
Mhm.
And I was like, okay. So I hung up the phone. I had the airfare, but I didn't have enough money to stay at a hotel. So I called my daughter Susan, who had lived in Atlanta for 6 years. I said, can I get introduced to one of your friends? I need somebody to put me up for 3 nights.
Mhm.
And then I used the public transportation to get to the hotel. And I was at that meeting, and that was when I learned about the minority program, the certifications, and understanding how things were going to going forward.
Okay.
So I have those things to thank Johnny Cochran for and Mayor Bradley for. Okay, so then the other thing Mayor Bradley told Johnny to do was to tell me to go. I'm saying me because I'm pretty operating singularly by this time. You know, I have a team,
Yeah.
but by this time, Margaret and the girls, they're doing other things.
Gotcha.
Okay, because they were my partners in this situation.
Mhm.
So Johnny says, Connie, Mayor Bradley wants you to become what they call part of the Disadvantaged Business Entrepreneur Program at LAX. I said, okay, give me the name of the people,
Mhm.
the name person that I have to contact. So his name was Ramon Olivares. I called him and he said, okay, in order for you to even apply for the program, you have to have done 150,000 in your business 3 years consecutive. I said, okay. I got my tax returns. In 1990, we did over 150. In 1991, we did over 350. And in 92, the year of the riot, we did over 400,000.
Mhm.
This is all gross. This is not net.
Sure.
This is gross.
Yeah.
I was a working fool. Oh my God. I mean, I had no choice because I just, you know.
Yeah.
So anyway, we took the tax returns, and as they read through, they were like, their eyes, I could see their eyes widening. It's like, oh my God, we got to deal with her. So they put me on a list. And then in 1994, I received a call from Delaware North Corporations, and they invited me to come to a meeting to an attorney's office on the West Side. And they told me that they wanted me to be their partner for the theme building restaurant.
Okay.
Okay. So I show up with smoked salmon, tabbouleh, cookies, of course,
Oh yeah.
to this meeting. And they tell me what the plan is. And I say, okay. But what I hadn't told you, I'll tell you that story next. I said to them, I have to consult with my family. I said, this is a family business, and we have to have a contract. So I left, and I'll call my cousin Melanie, who had just graduated magna cum laude from the Berkeley University Law School.
Nice.
I said, Melanie, I need a contract, and I hear that you are getting married. Can we barter? I will do your wedding at cost if you could do my contract. She said, yes. So we had just moved to Altadena at that time. So we gave her our home in Altadena to do the wedding. And then I did the wedding at cost, and she did the contract.
Nice.
So she actually worked with the attorney from Delaware North, and they did the contract for the partnership for Cookies by Connie, #1, to be 40% partner in the Encounter restaurant. So that's how that developed. So I'm going to go back to the story of how I became contract wise.
Yeah.
So in 1992, after the riots, got another call from Johnny Cochran. I love Johnny Cochran because he was keeping me informed.
Yeah.
And he said that the owner of J. Marriott, who had airport contracts, okay, wanted to mentor 4 businesses, one African American, one female, one Latin, and I think Asian. Yes.
Okay.
So
Want to check all the boxes.
yes. So I was like, okay, what do I do? So I ran back to USC because at that time USC had a business plan program, an entrepreneur program, and I did the business plan again for Cookies by Connie. I go back to the JW Marriott people. They have changed their minds. They were going to put us in partnership with a TCBY yogurt.
Okay.
And then when I got done with the business plan, they had changed their minds. Oh my God, I cried. But I did not have a written contract.
Mhm.
So that was my written contract lesson.
Mhm.
So when I got to Delaware North, I wasn't signing nothing, doing nothing until we had a contract.
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. That's right.
So, I mean, I have so many stories to tell of why I am the way I am today
Yes,
and to share with other entrepreneurs if they will listen.
that's right. No, and that's one of the reasons, not only, because you're, family and you gave me, opportunity, through my dad and, you guys working together and doing different things, but just those foundational memories of seeing you cutting the ribbon, the big rainbow of red balloons and all that. I mean, those are foundational memories for me. And
Right.
it was my big cousin starting a business, in a neighborhood where there was a lot of brown folks out, light brown,
Yeah.
dark brown, whatever. And I was like, man, this is amazing. And all the family that was working in and behind the scenes and driving and
Right.
people,
Right.
all the people like me that you employed at whether it was a weekend thing or it's like, hey, we got an event, grab your cummerbund and let's get it popping. but but and since then, the continuation and the continued development and and then of course the bringing the Encounter restaurant there to LAX and then bringing it back, the big redesign and everything, and that's and you said there's nothing there now, correctly? I mean, correct? There's no.
They did not make it a restaurant once we left. It's just empty.
Hmm.
And
Okay.
then on the bottom, the offices, the veterans, the U.S. What's it called when the Army, the military, the people, they took over the bottom. It was across the street
Okay.
in a trailer. Now it's I can't think of what they call it.
Like,
And I should remember because I did a lot of
Veteran
work with
Affairs
them.
Office, VA.
No, it's not. It's the U.S. It's actually the people that, when the people are deployed into the armed services, that's where they get deployed, and that's where they go out into the planes when they leave LA.
Okay.
I just can't remember what it's called.
Gotcha.
So they have the bottom offices. But I'd like to share one more story
Yeah.
that I think is relevant. I never anticipated the redlining until I got to the store. And things that had been no problem while I was on the west side doing business or whatever, all of a sudden became a challenge.
Hmm.
So, as you know, we did upscale catering.
Yes.
So the minority liaison of Sony Pictures was a gentleman that I knew, and I had done a lot for him, and he was very supportive of Cookies by Connie. I don't want to say his name on here because people would know him,
Okay.
but I kept saying to him, we know how to do the same things that everybody else does. Give us an opportunity.
Yes.
He would never tell me that I could not do business because I was not in their zip code. So one day I went to a networking meeting and there was a white girl and she was from Sony.
Mm-hmm.
So I ran over to her and I said, I'm Cookies by Connie, I'm in Watts, blah, 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 blah. We do this, da, 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 da. Can I show you what we do? Because we can do the upscale and all that. And she said to me, Sony will not do any business with you because you're not in the 90230 zip code. I was so annoyed that the other guy could not tell me this. If he had told me, I would have understood. Because that was the only time that people did not do business with me. You know, I was kind of used to that,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Yeah.
But when I had to move, I sat down and I did my budget for moving.
Mhm.
I received a call from him. He said, Connie, how are you? I said, not good. We are moving and I'm doing my budget and I don't have the money to move. He said, what is the amount? And I told him the amount. He said, come pick up the check. Yep. Again, a blessing from God.
Yes. And
Yeah.
so it's so amazing when, there's people that, and you can't, it's difficult at times to see the world from their perspective or recognize the confines that they're working within,
Right, right.
regardless of what they feel in their heart and want to do for you.
Yes.
And so his inability, unwillingness to say straight up,
Yeah,
not getting money from these people, and here's why.
yeah,
However, since I know what you're going to do, capable of, and what I haven't been able to assist you with, now I can do that. That's beautiful. That's
yes,
wonderful.
yes.
That's wonderful. That's wonderful.
So see, in my book, I want to put it first that people will read it,
Yes.
but that it would be awakening and awareness that sometimes when people are like they are, it has nothing to do with you.
Yes.
It's the challenges that they're dealing with in their lives.
That's right.
And we have to accept that.
That's right. Yeah.
So on that note, I want to tell one more story. I'm now, my music program is done, 76. I'm now a senior deputy and I'm a supervisor at the jail back at Civil Brand. And I see this white deputy slap this white inmate who is handcuffed,
These are both women, or
both women.
okay.
My heart stopped.
Yeah.
You don't do that.
Yeah.
So I wrote her up
Yes.
like I'm supposed to.
Absolutely.
So she came to me, she's white,
Mm-hmm.
and she's like, she was challenging me. I took her by the collar right here,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
put my index finger in her throat and said, eye to eye, you were wrong and it was my responsibility. Now live with it.
Mm-hmm.
So of course she avoided me for 6 months
Mm-hmm.
and we didn't have to speak.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have to be cordial to each other. And I was fine with that because
Mm-hmm.
I used to say to them, you're never coming home with me and I don't want to come home with you, but we're going to get along on this job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So one day she comes to me and she's in tears.
Mm.
And she lives out like the San Gabriel Valley area somewhere.
Okay.
And I didn't know she had a disabled child.
Mm.
Well, however it worked, the authorities moved that child from the San Gabriel Valley home place to somewhere in Inglewood.
Okay.
It was difficult for her to go from East LA to Inglewood, to see her child.
Yeah.
I sat her down. I got all of the information. I went to my office. I got on the phone. I got that child moved back to San Gabriel for her.
Mm.
So I'm saying to you, as leaders,
Mm-hmm.
often we have to do things for people we don't even like.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
So the fact that we had that challenge
Mm-hmm.
before, I had to forget that
Yes.
and help her.
Yeah. But in like similarly, I've had students blow up at me and go off, whether it was on a team I was coaching, or we've had disagreements, of course, with other professionals, teachers, administrators at times, and a kid comes to them and tells them some fanciful story about what Mr. Wellington did, and I'm like, well, you know, when I show up here and I tell you that when I come here as a mandated reporter. I come here as a, working under the state, state laws and regulations and all these things. I'm like, so when I tell you that I did something, I appreciate that they said something, that they told you one thing, but I also need you to take into account everything that I have done, do daily, and put their statement in the totality of what is, right?
Right,
What
right.
you know about me, the people that you can call to find out if you're not sure,
Exactly.
if you're new here, and those sort of things. And what I often try to get them to understand, students, teachers, whoever, at Man, is I am going to be the one more than likely to pull somebody off of you. You know what I'm
Okay.
saying? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So
Yes.
don't you, it's not that you have to, again, we're not going home. We're not friends outside of here. We're professional,
Right, right,
respectful, and all of those things. Um, but don't feel like you can speak to me any sort of way.
right,
And I'm just going to take that when I ask you
right,
who it is that you are referring to, because I'm looking for them.
right.
Because what I really don't understand is, because they sometimes they'll build up these, the big black man or the strong
Right, 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 right,
thing in
right,
their
right,
mind, and then
right.
when you don't greet them in that manner, but you are assertive and you are clear about how things are going to go and progress, then it's
Yes.
like, well, you've got an attitude and this, that, and the other, and blah, blah, blah. Hey, man, listen. Again, like you said with the young lady, you straightened her out. Not only did you make sure that she understood what time it was, but you also did, what you needed to do for her her sanity and
Right.
for that child. That was it was a beautiful moment, and it just again is a testimony of the type of person that you are, the way that not only the way that you were raised, but how you were living at that, choosing to live at that
Right,
time.
right,
Yeah,
right, right.
and you
And
said
so
live
I
before
often say
knock you out.
that we don't always understand the challenges that another person is going through.
Absolutely.
And so when they bring us something very challenging, we don't have to accept that challenge. We just have to know that we're okay. And we have to hopefully understand that they will find out how, but we stay true to our values
Yes.
and do our what God gives us the
Yeah.
ability to do. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's a journey.
Now, before we go, we have to take a moment and talk about the Hazel Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts, specifically. You've talked around it. You mentioned some things, and programs and whatnot. But please tell us about this latest venture and how possible
Okay.
be of support.
So you know that I have four sisters. There's Ruth, Dr. Ruth Bascarine, who lives in Amherst, Massachusetts. Rosemary Jones lives in Compton, California.
Yes.
Lois, my sister, who was a prodigy, by the way, at 3 years old, playing the piano at 3,
Mm.
lives in Pasadena, California.
Yes.
And Joyce is the youngest. She lives in Los Angeles.
Yes.
So my sister Ruth began the Hazel Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts many, many years ago because she is a music teacher and a teacher of the arts for many, many years.
Yes.
She's also been the minister of music of many churches, and the East has embraced her. So
Mhm.
she's an accomplished pianist, an accomplished vocalist, an accomplished pipe organist, which I just
Mm.
adore. Okay.
Mm. Mm.
So she's always had an in studio clientele at her home in Amherst, Massachusetts.
Okay. Okay.
So she presents her students in a once a year recital at a Lutheran church that gives her the church complimentary for having her program. And the recital also picks the topic of the day. So social justice, now it'll be COVID, just
Yes.
whatever's going on, to something relevant.
Yes.
And then her students not only get lessons in music, but also in the journey of life, which I believe is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So Ruth, I wanted to make sure that Ruth's talents were recorded. So let's see. Before I left the encounter, which was about a year, 2012,
Okay.
I said, I am going to figure out how to get Ruth's CDs produced.
Okay.
So we did actually 3 CDs. One CD is a variety of songs, but the second CD, which is 12 spirituals.
Mm-hmm.
So I told Ruth, okay, let me tell you a little bit of the story of how this happened. Ruth was undergoing breast cancer surgery.
Okay.
I forget the year. I cleared my schedule, and I was crazy busy.
Oh yeah.
But I am going back, and I'm going to be with my sister for this surgery, which is in Boston, Massachusetts. For 10 days, I carved out that time. So on the 9th day, she was doing well. We traveled to Arkansas so that she could play the piano for her best friend's son's wedding. She sat down to the piano, no music, and she played these absolutely wonderful songs. And I sat there in tears. And I thought, oh my God, I got to get her recorded.
Yeah.
So one of the church members where the wedding was occurring came to me and he said, if only I had known, I would have recorded her.
Mm-hmm.
He was just enamored of her talent.
Yeah.
And that stayed with me. And I was like, okay, I've got to find a way to record my sister's talents.
Yes.
So I begged her, I said, Ruth, all those facilities that love you so much,
Mm-hmm.
you figure out how to go in and record songs. So she did. She went to her alma mater, which is Mount Holyoke, where she was a professor.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the technicians, they carved out a 2-hour recording session where she just played and played and played.
Mm-hmm.
So I saw Billy Mitchell in the bank one day. Billy Mitchell is a jazz artist and a producer. And I said to Billy, I need you. And he kind of looked at me and I was like, no, don't look at me sly like that. I'm a businesswoman, I understand, and I'm willing to pay.
Mm-hmm.
We just have to you tell me, because I had no idea what it would cost.
Yes.
So he and I started talking and collaborating. I shared with him the CDs, the 2-hour plays list that she had done. And then we concluded that we would pull 12 of those spirituals off to make the CD. And it's called Spirituals, Reflections, and Meditation.
Mm-hmm.
It begins with Amazing Grace. And anyway, this is when I got exposed to the digital world.
Yes.
So we went into a studio. Mr. Mitchell took us to the studio, and over several sessions, we got it done.
Mm.
And that is the CD that we have, and I'm sure you have a copy of it. You have a copy of that CD? Can you know?
At this moment, I do not, but I will.
Okay, so you will give me your address, you'll email, and I will send you the CD.
You got it.
Okay, so the next CD,
and I will Venmo you the fare because it didn't cost nothing, so it's not gonna cost nothing.
The next CD was, we wanted to honor our upbringing with the Jesus Only book and the hymns.
Mm-hmm.
So we did 12 hymns of the C.P. Jones. I'll send you that CD as well.
Okay.
So I particularly wanted to honor my uncle who was married to my Dolores, who played the trumpet.
Hmm.
Oh God, what's his name? Allison is his last, Jerry, Uncle Jerry.
Okay.
Uncle Jerry.
Oh, yes, 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 yes,
So I
yes.
paid for Uncle Jerry to come down and stay with us. And his song was listen to the sound of the trumpet.
Okay.
And he stayed with us and he went to the studio and he was a trumpet on, excuse me, he was a trumpeter on Listen to the Sound of the Trumpet. So that was really the only live instrument that we have. Everything else was done digitally to accompany what Ruth had already done.
Okay. Okay.
To me, it was a work of miracles.
Yeah.
And my sister Lois paid for that CD. So we have 2 CDs. Yes.
Nice. Nice.
So
Really
I
good.
want to talk about Lois because Lois is a genius. My mother prayed for a prodigy.
Okay.
We were already exposed to 2 prodigies that I knew.
Mhm.
One was Melba Jones, who was the eldest daughter of the Taft Jones family.
Okay.
Brilliant, a prodigy.
Okay.
She died at 18 years old, but she was the church pianist for years.
Mm.
2 more people that inspired us musically were your cousin Marjorie. Let's see, Marjorie would be your cousin. Yes,
Okay.
Margie Faye. Margie Faye. I don't remember the last name. Her married last name.
Okay.
Okay, and Magnolia, the only daughter of Sally and Uncle Albert.
Yes.
Okay, she would be
Oh.
the sister to cousin AB. So
Mhm.
we grew up with all this beautiful natural talent,
Mhm.
which was just virgin talent. I mean,
Yes.
it's so authentic.
Yes. Yes.
And they were our inspiration as children. So going back to Lois accompanied the Christ Temple Cathedral Choir at 7 years old with Handel's Messiah.
Oh,
Can you
wow.
imagine that?
Wow.
People
Mm.
came to the church to hear the brilliance of the Bass Girls,
Yes.
Pat Plummer,
Yeah. Oh.
Garfield Tucker. You recognize all those names?
Yes. Yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
they came to the church because
Wow.
it was like a concert
Yeah.
every Sunday morning.
Mm.
Yeah. So Ruth would be on the organ,
Yeah.
and Lois was on the piano. So Lois has been the piano, or rather, she retired from that position. I forgot what year, but she was a pianist for years.
Mhm.
For years.
Yeah.
And so Lois was a straight A student,
Mhm.
and she was so smart until when she went to school, it used to be B1, A1, B2, A1. They skipped her one of the first grade, one of the second, and wanted to skip her in the third grade, but my mother said no, it would take her too far out of her age group. So she graduated at 16
Mhm.
and had a scholarship to Cal State LA
Mhm.
for music.
Nice.
So
Really
we
good.
were so blessed,
Yeah,
so
man.
blessed.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yes.
Wow.
So going back to Ruth, she decided to go to Amherst, Massachusetts in 1971. She got her master's in children. It was something to do with children. I should have refreshed my memory, and I'm going to apologize. Her
Oh, no.
doctorate is in teacher training.
Okay.
And then she was a professor at Mount Holyoke. She was also a recruiter for Mount Holyoke before she became a professor. She retired as a professor. So Rosemary was an eligibility worker for the County of Los Angeles for many years.
Mhm.
And then Lois was who I call a minority darling because she was so smart. Wherever she went, they kept promoting her because she was so smart.
Sure.
But her specialty is workers' comp.
Okay.
So she is a workers' comp specialty, and she understands that language better than attorneys, any attorneys. But she really should have gotten a law degree, but she didn't. But she retired from a very prestigious law firm and has always done very well because of her brilliance. And see, again, it goes back to those independent skills that my mother inadvertently taught us.
Yes, absolutely.
And that we got as children. And then Joyce is, we call her the prayer warrior. So when everybody, all the family calls Joyce for prayers. But she at first worked for, I think it was one of the oil companies for a while.
Okay.
But she chose to be an at-home mother. And I say she got the best of the children. Camille, Candace, and Chad are just brilliant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, we all have something to contribute. And I am blessed by my children every day. My oldest daughter is in the IT recruiting business and has done very well. Jade is now building an insurance business. I put Jane in business when she was 18. When by the time she was 23, she was able to buy her first house, which set her for life. Okay. And then Margaret, my baby, who I adore, has I adore all of my children.
Of course.
Margaret has been very successful in her business, Image Quest Plus, which is a reprographics business. And she and her former husband remain business partners after they divorced. And they have a major contract with the LA Convention Center.
Oh, nice.
With the developer AEG, and that contract is still going. So
fantastic.
We are super blessed.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful.
So go back to HCB, the Hazel Catherine Pass Institute for the Arts.
Yes.
Ruth actually founded it, but once I exited the food business, and by the way, I didn't even talk about our food businesses that we had at San Onofre Nuclear Center. Let me tell you about that. For about 5 years, the Bass Floyd LLC were managing 5 restaurants. Encounter Restaurant at the LAX, Worldwide Grill that we remodeled as the cafeteria.
Yes.
And 3 cafeterias in the San Onofre Nuclear Center in San Clemente, where we were feeding over 1,000 people a day.
Goodness.
So we did that for 5 years, which is amazing. We were operating those restaurants and then buying food, managing all the people, managing over 150 employees. To me, it was incredible, And the San Onofre Nuclear Center at that time was managed by Southern California Edison.
Okay.
So going back to HCB, once I exited HCB, I decided to find out what else was going on in the world besides food and hospitality.
Gotcha.
And I started attending conferences. So one of the big conferences that I attended was El Camino College, where there were over 2,000 people. It was talking about the nonprofit world. So I said, wow, if 2,000 people want this world to be wonderful, we should be just rolling.
Yeah.
Why aren't we? I don't understand. Yeah. So I started really researching the nonprofit world. So the setup for, quote, our economic system is that the for-profit would benefit and finance the nonprofit.
Okay.
But in the Black neighborhood, we have either lost our businesses because of riots, or in the 70s, the Koreans came and bought most of our businesses. Gradually, we don't have the for-profit businesses that have the capital to support the nonprofit businesses.
Yes.
And that's a challenge.
Yes.
That's a challenge.
Yeah.
So then I went to the Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation. And by the way, people don't often know this, But in every city, there is a small business development center of some kind that's financed by the federal government.
Okay.
In Los Angeles, the most recognized is Pacific Coast Regional on Wilshire Boulevard. Then there's Vermont Slauson Economic Development Corporation, which had the class that I wanted on how to build a business plan for a nonprofit.
Gotcha.
So I attended the 6 weeks, once a week on Wednesdays from 9 to 12 class. I pulled and did the research for that business plan for the Hazel Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts.
Mhm.
Lois and I then tackled the 1023 form for the federal government, which you ask you one question 5 different ways, which is very challenging to get through.
Yeah.
And we actually paid a consultant $500 to help us through that. When we got through that challenge, we paid $800, I believe, to get our letter of determination, which allows us to be a legal nonprofit and tax exempt. It's called a letter of determination. Now, there's several steps before that, and I've actually outlined them in a memorandum so that people come to me and want to know how to do it. I give that to them as their guidance.
Okay.
If they want me to guide them, then I charge them $500 to guide them. So I was able, with Lois, I'm going back to Vermont Slauson Economic Development, building that business plan for HCB. HCB is Hazel Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts.
Mhm.
That plan would include all the sisters' computers, plus a consultant, James Davis, who brought it all together, and we met the expectations of the class and handed in that business plan on time and got our certification. So the missions in that particular business plan, the first mission is to teach students how to read music, sing, and play instruments.
Okay.
Many people are born with the gift of music, but if they do not learn how to read music, they cannot be employed by the studios who pay money or by the symphonies. When you know how to read music, then you can get paid in those particular capacities, but you've got to know how to read the scores.
That's right.
And that's the challenge with playing by ear.
Yes.
You can go to the churches and play by ear, but you cannot always be employed. Yes.
Well, because if you're working with, if you're the rhythm guitar, you're the second drummer or whatever, and you can kind of ad lib with a band, that's cool, and you guys record, and that's great. But if somebody down the hall needs a drummer and they've got sheet music, they can't.
You've got to be able to read the music.
That's
exactly.
Right. Absolutely.
So that is the mission for the music teaching program.
Yeah.
I'm going to send you. Do I have your email? Because I want to send you the plan.
Yes, because I sent you. You have the yes, but I'll send it to you again. Make sure you have it. Okay,
because I'd like to just send you the plan.
No, I want
because this plan is going to be a gift to the world.
Mm-hmm.
Funders do not fund family nonprofits. They don't want to see a nonprofit where the creators of the nonprofit are getting paid. That's not kosher.
Okay.
So Bass Sisters will oversee the programs, but they will not be the paid positions.
Okay.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So we will give that program to whomever wants it.
Okay.
To conduct it in their city, their church, their school, however they feel necessary, but they have to also raise the money.
Yes. Yes. Okay.
So A year ago, I was introduced to Urban Awareness USA. They're out of Atlanta and they're faith-based. I want, I should say, we want
Mhm.
the Hazel Catherine Bass Institute for the Arts to honor our parents who were believers in God.
Yes.
The first motto is train up a child in the way it should go, and when he is old, he will not depart.
Right.
So I feel like we are living examples of that. Our parents trained us
Yes.
and we did not depart.
That's right.
So we want to train other people so they will, even if they stray, they come back.
Yes.
But many of them are raised where they don't have the conscience in the first place.
Mhm. Yes.
So we want to create an environment where they will be taught the golden rule, the
Yes.
10 commandments,
Yes.
how to live
Yes. Yes.
in a righteous way.
That's right.
So I at first attended the webinars of urban awareness in 2019, and then I joined them in January 2020. And so they are helping me with my fundraising project.
Okay. Good news.
And so
Good.
that's so I'm when you see the don't let the numbers frighten you because we live in God's world and everything is plentiful. And I believe that when God wants us to do it, he will
Mhm.
make a way.
Oh yeah. And it's only and just like the cookies that one December, it's only
Yes,
one phone
yes,
call away. The It's one phone
yes,
call, one text, one email, one person that you don't know that's reading the story or watching this interview is going to
yes.
say, "Oh, I have, the trust. Our family trust has, X number million in not freelance, but uh, all the words escaping me. Um,
Philanthropy,
yeah,
philanthropy.
and
Yeah,
philanthropical efforts and whatnot. And yeah, we'd
yes.
love to we'd love to partner with you.
So let me tell you, that is my last mountain, and I'm working on that now.
Mhm.
The social media programs.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm working on it. And so what I did last week, I went online and all the small business development centers came up.
Mhm.
So I clicked on one of the centers and it turned out to be the one that's at El Camino College, Community College.
Okay.
So I had my first session with a social media person and guidelines
Mhm.
of what I should do first.
Mhm.
And she referred me to a consultant at El Camino College. And so next week I will contact them because I want to set up the LinkedIn,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Facebook,
yeah.
Facebook Live. I already have Facebook. We're not using it like we
Yes,
should.
yes, yes, yes.
And the Instagram is more for younger people,
Mhm.
but I still want to do Instagram as well.
Mhm.
Twitter, I'm not really sure about at this point, but I do think that LinkedIn and the Facebook programs are where we should be. But I also want to sell the CDs
Mhm.
on social media.
Mhm.
So that's another plan and that's the last, not the last mountain, but that's my next mountain to climb.
Gotcha. Well, the great thing about mountains, you know, is that there's a pair of boots for every mountain, and
Yes,
and
yes,
so that's here we go. Here we
yes,
go up.
yes,
Here we go on another rabbit trail.
yes.
It's not. I mean, you have in the course of these 2.5 hours we've been together, you've given us some the history of course of our family, um, LA High, Johnny Cochran. I mean, Tom Bradley. It's funny because I went with Katie, my daughter. We went to Goodwill yesterday, and I was book hunting, and I was just looking to see if there were any, encyclopedias or like the ebony, ebony books or things that got put down, just anything.
Right, right, right.
And I picked up and I brought home Alex Haley's Queen,
Okay, okay,
and one of Johnny Cochran's books.
okay.
And they're still in the car. I didn't even bring them in the house last night. And what was the third one? There was a third one I bought. Hot dog. But anyway, when you said Johnny Cochran earlier, I was like, I literally bought a Johnny Cochran book just
Okay, okay.
your classmate. And I mean, of course, that he definitely,
He impacted a lot of lives. I went to his service. I left home 2 hours before because I knew, even though it was at West Angeles, I said there's going to be too many people and I got to get there early.
Yes.
So I found a parking space. I walked in, I got to the door, and the man at the door said, "Do you belong to Second Baptist?" I said, "No." And then he looked at me and said, "Connie." And I said, "Oh," he was a friend of my cousin's. He said, "Go in there and sit wherever you want." I said, "Thank you." Another God move, another divine.
Beautiful.
So I have to talk about my grandkids just a second.
Mm-hmm.
So, Monique is my grandchild who I raised.
Yes.
Because Susan had a baby at 14.
Yep.
At 15 exactly. So she's my child and she's my heart. I can't tell you how much I love that child.
Yes.
So she's an LVN.
Yeah.
And because of her, we got our shots 3 weeks ago.
Oh, good news.
Yeah, I got mine, and I'm talking the vaccinations.
Yes, yes, yes.
So she works at a facility, and the facility had extra shots. And so her supervisor said, "What about your grandma and her family? Do they need some shots?" Mm-hmm. She called me. Now, David and Margaret are not 65. I said, "Well, David and Margaret are going to bring me. They have to get their shots." All three of us got our shots.
Nice.
And we'll get our second one on the 15th.
Good deal.
But she's just a blessing in so many ways, many ways.
Yeah.
And she has the most focused, wonderful kid in life who's in her third year at the University of Missouri, excelling on the honor roll. I mean, her major is public health.
Okay.
Then granddaughter number 2 is our Kylin, who is just multi-talented, beyond talented. Okay. And the genius in all the social media and all the wonderful, talented. Okay. She's now living in Washington, D.C. with her baby's father. And I just can't tell you the joy that my children bring to me. Wonderful. Then the third child is Cheyenne. Okay. Cheyenne finished and got her education at Hampton University in journalism. Okay. She came out, her mother said, "What business do you want to do?" And she said she told her mother she started her business. And when she got to 56,000 followers on Instagram, MTV contacted her. She's now one of the MTV teen moms, and that platform is helping her be global because her baby was born with a metabolic disorder. And so we created Rage Regardless Ride, and because Ryder is she'll be 4 in April. Okay. And now they are recognized globally. So she does the shirts or whatever, they sell out in a day. I mean, she's really taught me the value of Instagram. Yeah. So her show is on MTV Tuesdays at 8, I think they call. I watch it at 5. Okay. Okay. Then the granddaughter number 4 is Anna. Anna graduated last year from the University of Virginia. Okay. She has been a genius scholarship, a natural athlete, tennis, the works. Okay. Speaks fluent Mandarin Chinese, and has started her own business, Techie Staffing LLC. Now the baby, Michael, who is Jane's daughter, served as one of the Rose Princes of the Pasadena Rose Tournament last year. She's at the University of Oregon. So I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. I'm blessed. Then I have other children on Margaret and David's side. Danielle
Mhm.
got her degree from the University of New Mexico.
Okay.
The son Devin is wow, he's doing something very different. Marine biology.
Okay. Okay. Very,
Yes.
very
And
good.
then Christian just completed his term with the Air Force. He's home now.
Okay.
And then the oldest son, Ryan, is a computer, So, I mean, we're just blessed. And so I get to live with this brilliance.
That's
I
wonderful.
mean, yeah. And Ryder, who is just, oh my God, a dream child, is now learning at 3 years old how to play tennis. Can you imagine?
Hey, it's
Yeah.
it's that's
Yeah.
so
And Boz was the first boy, period, because we're all girls.
yes.
Smart, 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 smart. I mean, I marvel. I marvel. Yeah. And I'm grateful,
So wonderful.
grateful,
So wonderful.
grateful. Yes.
Man, well, Cousin Connie, I want to thank you for all y'all out there that are not family. And we're running up on my cousin talking about Connie, Connie, Connie. You introduce yourself properly, say Ms. Bass, and slow down. And but give her an opportunity. She'll sprinkle you with some of that game. And I want to thank you so much for being my guest here on I Represent the 2%. And to all of our family, all of our extended family, if you were mentioned today, or if your aunt, uncle, grandparent, brother, sister, neighbor was mentioned today, God bless you. And, Christ Temple Holiness and all the family
Yes. Yes.
extended,
It's the foundation of our lives. Yes.
I
Yes.
was in the neighborhood. I was with the Carboys 2 weeks ago with Chuck and Henry and Luxie, and I was sitting here with my son, and I was like, why is my camera not rolling? I was like, I have to, I was like, so, and
Yes. Yes.
I was in their house, and I was like, I have to, get in
Record
contact with
this.
all my family. Yes, and then not just,
Yes.
not, I mean, it's great to catch up and all those things, but we want to, have these histories,
Right.
like the Library of Congress has the enslaved, the narratives and all the speeches and all those sort of things. And I'm like, man, we need to have these things on tape. We haven't had a family
I
reunion and all
totally
that.
agree.
So yeah.
And what I didn't tell you is that Henry's going to be one of our board members.
Oh, wonderful.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No,
Yes.
it was great. They've been so, tight
COVID.
in the house. Yeah. And making sure everything was cool,
COVID.
especially after,
Yes.
the
Yes.
fall fast and everything last spring. So I was like, I said, is it cool? And can we come by? And they're like, oh yeah, come on in, we're good. And so we had our masks on talking, and and it was cool. We kept our distance, and we pulled them down for a picture. And I didn't post it because I was like, okay, let me wait 2 weeks at least, make sure they're good. I'm like, I can't put this up. Like, I'd be like, no.
I know this COVID has us so paranoid. Oh my God.
Yeah,
So paranoid.
wow. It's wild.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you. I'm gonna let me sign off and
Okay.
then
Okay.
pause the thing, and then we'll be on for a second. Guys, again, thank you for joining us this week on I Represent the 2%. I hope that you are representing your family well, and that you guys are having a great week. Today in my class would have been, well, we're off today, but yesterday was Bessie Coleman Day. And I hope you're taking the time to learn about not only historical figures, but your mentors, your elders that are right around you, and take advantage of the opportunity while you have it. Because when they gone,
That's
baby.
right.
All right.
Yes.
Pausing.